Hi, everybody. Al Bernstein with another one of my quick hits. And on this particular one, we're going to talk about some of the fights on the British boxing scene. And as always, they are making some excellent fights in Great Britain. And there's one in particular that I'm going to talk about this evening. Actually, there's two, but there's one domestic battle in Great Britain that I'm going to be talking about that is I think very special, because sometimes, matches don't get made that would be interesting and fun for a variety of reasons, because of commerce, because fighters are at a point where it's not worth them, quote unquote, taking the risk to fight each other. And such a fight is Frankie Gavin and Sam Eggington. And Eddie Hearn, who's the promoter of Frankie Gavin, and talked about how this fight would be a good fight. Both men from Birmingham, but at different points in their career. Frankie Gavin, a former Olympian, and Sam Eggington, who's 29, and Sam Eggington, 21. Let's go focus on Sam Eggington first, a 21-year-old who has two losses from the prize fighter series, but is on a roll. He's fighting extremely well, and he is a tall, lanky fighter that has good power, and at 21 is getting better. Okay, so he's in that spot in his career. Then there's Frankie Gavin. Frankie Gavin, as I mentioned, a 29-year-old who had represented the England in the Olympics years ago, 2008, but is coming now off a loss to Kell Brook, where he fought for the world title. And right off that loss to Kell Brook, he agrees to fight Sam Eggington. Now, Eddie Hearn at the press conference admitted that he was shocked that this fight could be made. They all thought it was a great fight, but he didn't think either fighter would actually want to make it at this point. Eggington may be worried that he would lose to the more experienced Gavin, and Gavin not wanting to take such a tough fight coming back off a loss to Kell Brook. Both men did, and it's going to create in Birmingham a very special night on October 17th. Let's look at how these men match up against each other and what that tells us about this fight. I mentioned the age of the two fighters. Clearly, Gavin a little older, though 29, not by any stretch too old for a veteran, but Eggington 21 and not yet quite in his prime. And you look at their numbers as you see, there's more experience, obviously, for Gavin. They're both tall fighters for their weight division, for the welterweight division, and stylistically, I think this match makes a lot of sense. They both throw, I think, punches in a kind of a similar way, and they will both make an action fight. So this fight, to me, is an example of how often, in Great Britain especially, domestic fighters get together and make fights that the fans will like. It really happens there more often than not. Most of the time, when two really, really big fighters in Great Britain are ascending in a weight division, much more often than not, they will end up fighting each other. There have been countless historical examples. Recently, Frotch and Groves, you can go way back to Lennox Lewis and Frank Bruno, and there's a million in between that we can mention. But this, I think, is one of the charms of British boxing. Now, on the world stage, let's talk about British boxing and how some of their important fighters are looking ahead. And one of them is Kell Brook, the man who beat Frankie Gavin, who has a world title. There is talk, and there has already been negotiations between Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum of Top Rank for Kell Brook to fight Tim Bradley. Now, this is a fight that I think any boxing fan would love to see. Kell Brook, coming off his win over Frankie Gavin, and Bradley coming off a hard-earned win over Jesse Vargas, in which, as per usual lately, this is the norm, Tim was rocked in that fight, but managed to get through it. I think that, when you look at the stylistic matchup again of these two fighters, it just screams out that it would be a very, very good fight. And it would be Kell Brook taking on a top-notch opponent in his second title defense. And I think this fight would resonate, and it would Tim Bradley, not opposed to coming across the pond. Remember, he won his title years ago. One of his titles, his 140-pound title, against Junior Witter in Great Britain. So this fight has the earmarks of a terrific fight, and I think both of these fights, the one I talked about, the domestic one with Gavin and Eggington, and this particular one, demonstrates that good fights can be made in boxing. They are being made more often on both sides of the pond, but I have to especially give kudos to my friends across the ocean who are doing it on a regular basis and making very, very, very good fights. And that's part of the charm to me of British boxing, that when you see two fighters ascending, they're likely to end up in the ring against each other. We'll see you next time on Quick Hits.